You are live. We are live. Check that out. Hello,
Live.
everybody. Welcome back to Cardistry Talk. This is what I'm calling a crossover event, a multiversal collaboration, if you will. Deckology and Cardistry Talk, aka Cardistry Tyler, producer Tyler. We've done a show before, but that was before he started his kind of own, I don't know, cardistry career, but cardistry accounts.
It
And
was, yeah, right.
a long time ago is the end of season 1, so it's been a while.
Dang.
At least. So we're back though.
That's taking me back.
Yeah,
That was 2021.
it was.
2022.
Yeah, I think something like that. 2021 or 2022. Episode 32. I looked it up. So we're almost doubled. We're over double that now.
I was like I probably was only like 6-7 months into like my cardistry career at that point.
Yeah. Well, what had happened was I was like, I don't know. I think I couldn't find anybody for like the last episode. And I was just like, anybody, any fans or like anybody just want to be on? And you're like, I'll be on. And then I looked at your profile. I'm like, this guy's like good at editing and stuff. And like would actually have like a fun point of view.
Yeah.
Being like a camera editing and guy getting into cardistry.
I feel like part of you had just had Leon Ty. I can't think of his last name, but yeah, he was just on, and I had like I just had like kind of started following him. I just started watching your podcast, and then he was like, "Oh, he's like another filmmaker in cardistry or something." I was like, "You're right. There is a lot of like people that kind of geek out on cameras, also kind of geek out in the card world too, or just like in the techie space, if you will." It is kind of interesting how there is like a court. I'm sure that's like that in every hobby, though. There's probably some people like also that enjoy like the camera aspect of capturing the hobby.
Yeah.
And I like that last jam that we were at was the first time I probably had the least amount of like footage or photos to go through, which is probably why I was able to actually edit something within 6 months. And because I really enjoy being able to finally film people and use all the stuff that I use for work and be able to use it for something that I just have fun with. I don't try to make money off of, and just enjoy watching and consuming and participating in. And then being able to put all of that stuff that I use for work into this is like low-key one of my favorite things about the whole aspect of cameras and cards and the culture of cards.
Yeah. I think what's interesting too is a lot of people will get into the filmmaking aspect of it through cardistry. Like I feel like Sib Phase, maybe he probably did some before, but there's been a lot of people that have like gotten more into cameras and stuff because they wanted to film good cardistry, and then it carries over to outside of cardistry to potentially careers and stuff.
Dude, yeah, 100%. Well, it's what I feel like it does a really good job of is, and James from Joker and the Thief is probably one of the best at it that I've learned quite a bit from, but just like his product photography is really good. And the way that he incorporates just kind of like what he knows into product photography, but like with cards, and then runs a whole brand behind it as well by collaborating with other cardists and people that are also Magic Monet, like people that there's just like a lot of talent and creativity within cards and Magic, not even just cardistry. And I see like what Joker and the Thief does and how he collaborates with other people and puts out such top tier quality like photos and videos, but he also kind of like empowers those creators to do that stuff with them. I have a lot of respect for those brands that like aren't afraid to send product away to have people like just capture it. I think that's always just kind of cool, because I know from the side of somebody that just enjoys capturing it, it's just fun to be able to like take pictures of stuff and try different things out with different types of decks and gilded decks and all of that. And so it's cool seeing how many ways you can capture paper. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely just the amount of creativity in the community is insane. And just picking up with that, this is going to be a little bit different than some other episodes we've done. I think we're just going to talk a lot about current cardistry stuff for the most part, since we've already done a talk. So the thing that happened yesterday was the orbit black holes drop.
Yes.
So not that, but this.
Nice.
We have the black holes
Love
deck
it.
that they released yesterday. I think it's fascinating that they did the same day release. I feel like it's pretty rare for that to happen. Usually if it's the same day type of thing, it's a pre-order.
Yeah.
But like, no, we have the product the same day. That's really cool. I think of like Nintendo Directs. Nintendo is a video game company. They'll have like their kind of news showcase, and a lot of times they'll have like, you can download this game right after this event. And I just love that aspect of not having to wait for something.
Yeah.
But this is something I've been asking for so long, and I'm so happy they finally been able to do it.
Yes, I also saw that they are on my favorite card stock, Slimline B9 from Cardamundi.
Yeah,
love that stock. And so with missing hole, or missing like basically a big hole in the center, I'm like, these have got to be the flimsiest cards out there. I can't. I'm gonna.
yeah,
I really like it. I think what's cool about this deck is like the way that he collaborated with so many people on it. Daniel Schneider designed parts of it, I guess, from or like the faces is what I saw, or maybe the backs too. But then with Yep, I'm Joe also being a part of it, I thought it was cool seeing multiple people that have their own decks come together and collaborate on something. I thought that was a unique aspect that I don't feel like you see that often, at least I'm not aware of. And I thought that was pretty cool to actually see that something like that happen. I feel like Orbit's just like Chris has just been like really doing the card game strong lately. So now what I mean by that is like he's coming out with different styles of decks. He's not just doing different, like obviously I'm glad he like entered back. I think I saw a couple of comments about space. I love the space decks that he like that theme. I think the Orbit V8s were actually the first one that was coming out like when we first did our podcast
yeah.
a couple years ago. And so I always like geek out on space stuff already. So I thought it was kind of cool to see that kind of thing come back.
Mm-hmm.
But then his other deck drops just is the Squints one, how he put weed with the boxes and made it like smell or something. I didn't end up getting that, but I thought that was just funny and it was different.
I didn't know about that. That's funny.
It's just finding like those kind of fun ways. Just once again, like take like how many different ways can you take a picture of a deck of cards? How many ways can you just kind of like reinvent the card, but also kind of reinvent the packaging of the card? And so I think he does a good job with that. And I saw he had one episode. He was going to do like his own kind of podcast. And I watched that whole first episode. He had like this literally an orbiting effect, which I thought was just perfect. The way that he had that, he sat in his chair and there's like an orbiting camera around him that whole time.
Oh yeah.
I was like, bro, that's perfect. But he talked about like kind of the origin of Orbit. I hope if he's watching this that continue. I don't unless I'm just ignorant to when he's come out with more episodes. I hope he continues doing that. I'd love to hear more from the people that are like the founding fathers of cardistry, the people that have been around for decades in it, and hearing their perspectives of it. I think that would just be that would be sweet. I want to hear more from them, just to hear from like what it was like back when Tobias had his Patreon. He did some interviews, and I thought it was just cool hearing more in-depth perspectives from some of these people. And I just want to encourage any of them that might be listening to this to talk about your thoughts on cardistry, because people will listen, because even if it's just me.
Yeah.
But very undervalued. I love hearing those perspectives, especially people that have just been around it long enough. I've only been around it since 2021, 2020. So it's like I'm still naive to how much history goes into all of this. So I'm kind of like at another wave of it. I don't know how you'd categorize how many waves of cardistry there have been, but I guess you could look at what's the classic cardistry contest that's happening.
Yeah, with Aslan.
Yes. There was like that era. He's like, you can pick these 40 moves. And it was like from something that like Zach and Noel was like teaching or something from that DVD, or I don't even remember what it was. But I was like, well, first off, I wish I could just buy tutorials like that too. Like an organized tutorial hub would be really helpful in this community. Like it's like, I know Cardistry Archive can be controversial, but I don't know where else to like find tutorials on stuff that are like, you can find them on YouTube, sure, but like I'm be more than happy to pay for high quality tutorials rather than just like sketchy iPhone tutorials from somebody that has like low quality and you're having to like it's
Well, I've been putting around like an idea of through Instagram, like learning a move a day type of thing for a week.
That would
like
be
not hard moves, not mockingbirds, but stuff like that. And I've been trying to decide, like, pick the moves that I feel like I could learn pretty quickly. And a lot of these like older compilation lists of like cardistry tutorials, you'll click on the links and like a third of them won't work. Like the videos are just down and stuff. Like people, maybe they uploaded a better quality one that they were selling or whatever the case is. But the collection videos, like the lists that have been made in the past from like Discord servers and stuff, like they're just not updated now. Like I was looking at the cardistry PDF that I think the cardistry Reddit had put together, and it wasn't updated since like 2021. So it's like, I don't know, it's hard to have someone to maintain it. But
there does need to be like a there needs to be a committee, a cardistry committee.
Yeah, like the cardistry gang.
Yes, we need something like I just think it'd be helpful is because, like, you know what would be really helpful actually is I think learning moves is so, like, you saw, like, I don't know if Evie was showing me how to, and I've watched I don't know how many tutorials on Phased. He was literally showing me like step by step, and I still just wasn't able to even get like one part of it. And but you know what, I was like, as I sit here thinking about that experience, like it was really cool. It was easy to like kind of like figure out, okay, I'm just practicing this part wrong, which is like really valuable to find out early on in the practice process. But I kind of wonder if it'd be kind of a fun thing to do where, like, to piggyback off your idea, if there could be something like a community learning event where it's almost like it's a 4-week or 6-week or 8-week kind of like school of sorts, where it's kind of like you have a different move a week or something that you can kind of work on as a community with people, and you can maybe troubleshoot. And it's really not necessarily to like learn groundbreaking new moves or whatever, and there could be different levels of it maybe. But I feel like when you are learning with people, it is a little bit more fun. It's a little bit less discouraging, and you can kind of learn off of other people's mistakes as you're making them too. And and you get that live feedback. So I don't know if something like that ever existed before, but I feel like that would be kind of fun to like be participating in a cardistry camp online or something like it, whether it's like a Discord room or something. But that would be kind of cool because then everybody's kind of following the same curriculum and kind of helping each other move along. And there could be, novice, intermediate, and advanced or something. Because I'm under the school of thought too, where it's like, I am not interested in creating my own moves. I enjoy collecting cards. I enjoy taking pictures of cards. I enjoy filming cards. I enjoy cards and the moves that have already been created. I just don't have like that yearning to develop and come up with some like OG moves like some people can. And like and maybe I'll play this back in a year or two from now and I'll be like, come on. But like right now, I still like for the last 3-4 years, I haven't been like, man, I really got to start coming up with my own stuff right now. I just enjoy learning other people's stuff. Even if even if it just takes me forever to like learn some of these things, but there's so much out there already that I guess it's like I like participating, not necessarily like leading the thing when it comes to creating a move.
That's where I've kind of become at my point too. Is when I was first getting back into cardistry, I was like, oh, I got to create a lot of stuff, and now I'm like, I don't really care. I just kind of want to do this for fun. Like,
Yeah.
I like talking with other people about it. I like collecting aspect. I do like creating moves, but it's not my sole priority anymore.
Yeah.
I want to finish up kind of the thoughts on
Yeah.
the orbit real quick because I feel like what we're talking about right now would connect to the missing Discord that I want to talk a little bit about. But the orbit, coming back to that, I think it's great that they did a huge run of cards as well. They did 10,000 run for this. So that's a lot of decks. So a lot of people will be able to play around with the idea. Whereas like with missing, I really did love the Holy deck.
Yeah.
It was probably my favorite release, if not the accordion deck from last year. But it's one of 1,000. So like 1/10 of the amount of people are going to be able to experience the concept and play around with the idea.
Yeah.
So I love the huge quantity that they did, and that it's $15, which feels right to me.
People could also take a note from you and just make their own.
Yeah, if you have time, you can just
If you have
cut it
time, you
out.
got a knife. Yeah, dude. I remember you showed up. I think it's on one of the old cardistry jams that we had, probably the second or third one, maybe. There's one in Indy, but you showed up with an orbit deck that was cut, and you were doing a lot of that, and I'd never seen anything like that before. And then you had the cheddar cheese deck. So like you've been cutting holes in decks for for a minute
Before it
now.
was cool.
So people, so people can always just make their own too. But these are definitely I mean, I'd love to watch how like I think Nathan shared in a story a while back from Missing, shared like how he had a CNC machine cutting holes in decks for the Holy deck.
Mhm.
I would just love to watch more behind the scenes content on how that kind of stuff is created. Like I mean,
Yeah,
imagine, but like, there's got to be some kind of like, what is that like?
device.
Yeah, dude, like that. There had to be something where they're like, okay, we got the deck here, and now we got to punch a bunch of holes in a bunch of decks. And like, what was the troubleshooting process like? And like, what do the
Yeah.
machines look like? All of that. It's
Well, he said it took 7 years from the idea to, like, here, and I don't know how much of that was
that's
actively spent, like, looking into the process, but the idea that Yep, I'm Joe had was, like, 7 years ago, and he's Orbit said he's been looking into doing it for 7 years, so, um, it's
that's
obviously isn't an easy process probably.
yeah. I mean, there had to have been like that wasn't the first run. Like they had to, I'm sure they had to been like, oh, that's not going to work. Like something
Mhm.
like there had to be some troubleshooting along the way. But yeah, I'm fascinated by the process of A, decks being created, but B, when they start incorporating those elements into it, I'm just like,
Yeah, I think what's really cool about it too is for people like me who doesn't necessarily get excited about playing card releases too much anymore because it's all very similar. Um, this is like something new and exciting, and
yeah,
it's like, okay, this makes me excited about the community. Whereas like the Fontaine, the Blueprint deck, Like, it's really cool. It's a cool
Yep.
design, or fingerprint deck, I mean, that they
Yeah.
just released. Like, it's really cool design, but it's
Nice
also
guy.
like I have 15 other Fontaine decks.
Yeah, it's I will say I'm glad not glad or not glad, I guess what the word is for it, but I just haven't like I'm with you though. I got out of my like my deck craze phase where I was like buying everything that dropped, where I felt like that completionist in me where I was like, all right, I gotta get, I mean, I'm looking at some of my collection now and it's just like it stops like missing, and Verts decks are like the only ones that I'm like kind of actively collecting right now.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't even order the last Verts deck that he was emailing out. It's like the blue one that came out recently because
Mhm.
I didn't see it, and I was like, I'm not gonna fall. Like I'm not gonna. I felt like I was falling into some kind of trap, or like it felt really weird. Like buy this deck without seeing it, and I was like, I was all for it, and like I have all but that one now. I just bought the last two. Um, shout out Pat, hooked me up with his last two here, but um, yeah, I that last one that just dropped it was like that blue one, and I was like, you're really gonna sell decks without like showing people? And I
Mhm.
was like, man, I just don't want to like fall into that hype. I just felt like I don't know. It just felt weird. It felt like I was like I've got 2 uncuts of the verts on my wall right now, and I was just, like, disappointed to see, "Oh, we're gonna sell a deck without." I was like, "Man, you guys are really, like, feeling yourselves on this." Like, you like
It
you
is ironic that it did end up being like, I really like the color of it, and I'm kinda mad about it that I didn't buy them. So it did like, but I'm
and
with you though. It's like, you want me to buy something and I don't know what it is.
yeah,
Like,
dude, I was like,
that's
"What
not
is
very
it?"
pro consumer at all.
No, and they're all about, like, the community, the community, the community, or whatever, and it's like and then, like, "Now buy this so that you can co" like I don't know. That to me just it rubbed me the wrong way. I know I'll probably end up buying it resell because I do like I travel with the Vert decks almost exclusively now because when I am on a plane or I'm like in like when I'm just traveling, I like the Vert decks because they look like cardistry decks. I'm not
Mhm.
asked to do magic tricks with them. And that's one of the main reasons I really like carrying those with me specifically. Um, or I'll take like a deck that really like I can fan it and it's like, oh, that says cardistry. Because like I don't want to do magic tricks for people, but I am um always down to fan, you know. But like in the verse decks just scream cardistry. And I was just like yeah, I'm bummed out that they took that approach. I think I'm not discounting, like, anything that they've done for the community and everything else, but, like, I just thought that was weird after, like, buying decks, like, hyping up their 10th anniversary for so much, and then they're like, "And now you can just pre-order and just buy this," and then, like, I like the concept, you open it and be a surprise. Verts fans will be Verts fans, like, of course, it does look cool, it stayed in line with their they didn't, like, completely change anything up, so it's not like it's a total shock, but I just thought it was, like, a weird sales tactic. It felt salesy in a way, and they
Yeah.
hadn't felt that way before. And I was like, you don't need to. Like, you just don't need to. Like, you've got a loyal following, um, and you've got great cards, so you don't need to do that kind of. You just don't need to. But maybe
Mhm.
it was just their way of also kind of getting us to talk about it and just kind of create hype around it. But um, all that said, I know I'm going to end up picking it up off XDex or SoCal or some like trading or some, like
Yeah.
I'll end up getting it. I just was like, anyway, Fontaine's drops though. I'm happy to see that he's back though, because it like I felt like the community got a little quiet there when Zach took a break.
Mhm.
I was happy to see him back. I never want to see somebody like burned out, and you could obviously, he talked about kind of feeling those symptoms of it, and it's unfortunate. Like anybody that like was at that kind of like running at that pace, like he's probably exhausted to some degree. I'm happy he's dropping decks again. I didn't end up getting those. I really like the sky blue ones though. I think that's what those are.
Yeah, I think you call them Sky.
I think those are really cool. Not something that I was like, oh, I thought the limited pre-order was a little bit different. Oh, nice. George is here. George wanted like talk about up and coming cardists, dude. Like, I feel like in the last 2 years, maybe it's like the London Cardistrytalk is where I saw him. That kid's good. He's very, very good.
Hey, George. Thank you, George Grayson. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. So, but yeah, with Fontaine though, I hope to see just more. I just want to see more cardistry from Zach. I think he's obviously really good at it. So, seeing more cardistry videos from him would just be fun.
Yeah.
I never got into the Fever Dreams. I didn't end up getting any of those. I do like the solid. I mean, I got all the shiny decks that he's got besides like the limited ones he had to like exclusively get. But I think anybody that has watched any kind of content from me knows that I'm very pro shiny deck. So if there's shine on it, I probably have it. So I'm cool with him just continuing to also release shiny decks. But
yeah,
but yeah, I'm not also jumping in line to pick one up. I am in a floral deck phase still though. That's one that has kind of stuck around. These dabs from him, I really wish I had. This is like one uncut sheet that I really wish I had, because it's about probably the most affordable piece of artwork from Dabs Mila that I could get. I think I said that right. For maybe $300, because I think their paintings usually go for like in the thousands.
Oh geez.
So that'd be like the closest I could get to any kind of artwork from them at an affordable price. But yeah, so Fontaine collabs, all for that stuff still. Any brand that does a collab with the deck of cards, I just, there's a better, like, it's a good way to bridge an audience from one community to another. And Fontaine did that one probably the best I can think of.
Yeah, I am happy to see Fontaine coming back. And like, I do feel like there was a point in time where cardistry just kind of stopped, and then now it's starting to pick up a little bit more. So it is cool to see like him just release something new at all with the Sky deck and the fingerprint deck. And he's going to be he just dropped a post yesterday, I think, of I guess re-release or like just restock of the Fontaine Fantasies.
Oh yeah,
for the Sunday.
Yeah, see, I'm getting them mixed up. It's Fantasies, not Fever Dreams. I didn't get really either.
Or wait, is it Fever Dream? I don't know. Now I'm mixed up too.
I think on the screen you got both there, but I think he's got both maybe. But yeah,
it's the alien head is the one that he's re-released, or the not alien head, because that's the guy's actual alien. I don't know. This is hard to describe.
Or then there's the 5000s too. I don't even.
Yeah,
the dude was pumping decks out. But you know what though? I think I said this in one of my episodes, like one of my few episodes I had a Deckology here, but we can talk about that in a minute. But the dude was getting so much hate for all this colorways over and over and over again. And then so he's like, you know what? Like, loads up a shotgun and then just blast out all the different kinds of patterns. And so to me, it was comical, the fact that like people would be like, oh, he's just like changing the color again. And then so he's like, you know what? All right, you guys want different variety? And then boom, he sends variety, full send. I always thought that was just kind of fun to see how like many types of decks that he would just keep pushing out. Whether you like the strategy or not, I just thought it was still like, I like to at least think it was a funny response to the hate that he would get for just releasing recolors
Yeah.
or new colorways, where he's like, okay, all right, I'll switch it up then.
What I think was funny though is with the releasing of so many decks, like for a little bit there, there were be the collectible ones that would be in the runs and stuff like that. But like the main complaint for a while was that Fontaine is too expensive on the secondary market. And now you can get a Fontaine for $10 for
Yep.
cheaper than what it originally cost for some of these, not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just interesting that you see him shotgun out all these decks, and it really did do a number on the
The resale.
resale
Yeah.
of his value of the Fontaine decks.
Yeah. Which, I mean, could be a strategy of itself, where he was like, maybe he was like, he thought it was ridiculous seeing how much more expensive those decks would end up costing people. And so he was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to stop that. And so I don't know. I've always been pro Fontaine. I've always, anybody that can make a, I don't know if he is making a living off of it, but anyone that can at least appear to make a living off of playing cards, I think is pretty impressive. But you also, to make a living off of cards and live in California, you got to sell a lot of cards. And you got to do a lot of different things, and you got to be kind of innovative in different ways. So anybody that's like at least chasing that dream, I think it's like props for at least going for it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see him back though. It gives more stuff to talk about too. There's just more happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good that the classic cardistry contest is happening too. I love that Missing is doing their base deck series. I like the little tool that they came out with to like kind of like sharpen the edges of the deck.
Yes.
Spud showed me that a move, like there was a
Check
Cardistry
this
Jam
out.
in Cincinnati. I asked him what he's doing, and he was he was doing that next to onto a table, and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, it just makes it more tacky on the sides. And I was like, oh. And so then Missing comes out with some stuff like this, and I was like, okay, I really like that.
This is something I wanted to talk about. Obviously, that's why I have a video of it prepared.
Perfect.
But just Missing making a base website. They haven't quite released it yet, but it's coming soon. Where it's like, here, I mean, Orbit has that right now, I think, as well, where it's just like there's constantly stuff for sale. But Missing's doing this now too, and they're introducing some pretty cool stuff. Like you said, there's this card buffer is what they call it, where you can have two grits. It says one for smoothing and one for buffering the edge of playing cards. I don't know that this was something I wanted until I saw it.
Yeah, I think that's how everybody's going to feel about card accessories like this.
So I think this is great. It'll be interesting to see how people respond to it, how it actually feels. I know Lucas Magic said he's a firm believer of it. He's also just a firm believer of Missing in general. so
I challenge anybody that doesn't have a stake of ownership in Missing to challenge his collection, because that dude's got a collection of Missing decks. I think he finally just recently got the all the sealed new ones now. I think that was like his one of his latest ventures, was like trying to do that. But
yeah,
I feel like I need to get a Missing deck out right now.
But they had the buffer. They are also going to be releasing base playing cards, I think they called it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So just constantly having decks in stock for people to buy for $8.
I love that. That's OPC pricing right there. Early bird special pricing right there, bro.
Yeah. So they have this, all the black one like this, kind of reminiscent of the NE1 deck.
Yeah. I think that's cool. I mean, Missing is definitely not missing any marks when it comes to the card game. A big player in the game right now. I got a little bit of fatigue towards the end of last year with the Cobweb deck.
Yeah, I felt that too.
That one, there was just a couple of releases that was just like boom, 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 and then there was like the Holy deck, and then the Cobweb deck, and the Fontaine deck, and then the cobweb like glow in the dark one, and I was like, okay. And it's like I kept up with them this round. I just hope there isn't like they don't keep going the route of like, and we're gonna only release 100 of these glow in the dark ones or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm cool without like gimmicky cards, I guess, if you will. I think it's cool. Like, do one a year, sure. Like something like unique like that, I guess. But like that like last little bit got a little bit exhausting there for a minute.
Mhm.
But I will say though, the Fontaine collages, these articles are really sweet. Um, I don't see oh, analog. That was one. I want to see another analog deck. That
Mhm.
was, I think that was my first experience into missing, because that came out at CardistryCon 2022. And
Mhm.
that analog deck was one of my favorite ones that came out, just because I had never seen anything like that. And then to see how it all kind of like works together, I just thought that was still one of my favorites that I'd
Yeah.
love to see another version of.
I love with these base playing cards, um, is like I said, having a web store that people can just visit at all times, like I was saying, but also like an easy way to acquire their decks if they ever do like tournaments and things like that. Like a lot of these places do like use our cards for this contest and they're not selling cards at that time. And it's like I
Right.
can't support you directly. I have to support you through a reseller now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Because otherwise, yeah, you might have to drop $25 on a deck of cards, and you're like, man, I don't want to drop $20 on a deck of cards right now. Like, yeah, I could definitely see that, because I think I got these articles from somebody that after I posted about it, and that's what one thing that is nice with the cardistry community is, after like it took, I mean, a little while to even get to a point where you could post a story asking for something, and then somebody might have it. And that was how I got this, and like these articles.
Hmm.
And I just was like, I really want to get this deck. If anybody has it, let me know. And then you get a couple people that will usually like sell it to you and not try to make a bunch of money off of it, like $5-10 maybe to cover their shipping, and then a little bit of extra on top of that. But like, that's one thing that is pretty sweet about the cardistry community, is like when somebody kind of wants a deck, it's fun to be it's fun. It's kind of like at jams. Sometimes there's like Spud, like I'll never forget the last one in Ohio. Spud brought like a box of cards,
Oh
and
yeah.
he was just like, here, if you guys want some. And I I'm gonna return the favor and take our next jam. I'm going to take some decks, because I've got a lot of decks that I don't use. I know I'd rather
Yeah.
pay it forward, like how Spud paid it forward, because I took quite a few decks of cards. I think I took like 12 to
Yeah.
13, and I was
Well, at
like,
that at that point, I'm like actively not trying to add too many decks to the collection anymore,
"Yep,
just for spacing reasons. But I was just
yeah."
like a little gremlin around that little box. I was like,
I mean, he
"What?"
had rip and dips. I mean, he had, or yeah, yeah, dude, he had a lot of. I mean, I'm looking at quite a few right now that were like pretty legit, and just decks that I haven't seen before. True Linen, yeah, dude. Anyway, I'm not gonna start
Yeah.
getting up and getting decks, but yeah, Spud probably is my nicest people I know. Of course, just shows up with a box, a gross of decks. Basically, it is like,
It
help
does feel
yourself,
like that.
everybody, and he still walked home with a bunch of decks. So he
Oh
was,
yeah. He
I mean,
only
there was
he
so
only got rid of
many
like
there.
a third of what he had brought.
But yeah,
It's
I need
crazy
to
though. That's
do
like
that.
he has I think I don't know. I don't feel like I can quote this, but he has like over 400, 500 decks, I think, because he gets given stuff. Like
Yeah.
people that have been in the community for as long as him and who are as good as him and get free
Yes.
stuff,
Yeah.
like they
I
just have it overflowing at this point.
Yeah, you think about that, like, I think he's been in this since for over 10 years, and I'm like, if I have this many decks of cards and I've only been in it for, 4,
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, I can see how that, and people send like, even earlier, before, I feel like you got sent more. Because I've like, if you've seen Nate's collection, like Nate's got just decks that he like people would send to him back before I feel like cardistry was even as big as it is today.
Mhm.
So many bricks that they would send them. And now if I've got a company that sends me something for a release, it's like, here's 2 or 3.
Yeah. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about with missing, they also have the packets that they're releasing through P1. P1's great. If you like P1 customs, I did an episode with them very recently. Go check that out.
Amazing.
But they also have been doing the Discord, and this kind of circles back to the
Yeah.
community teaching aspect you were talking about earlier. Something that they've been doing that I think is really cool, that I want to shout out, is they're doing a monthly tutorial
Love
where
it.
you can just come jam, essentially learn it directly from the creator. So I think they did one with
Nice.
Lars, and they did one with Trin recently as well, where you can just they teach the move that they made to you, and you try to workshop it with them in person with a group of people. I
That's
haven't gone to one yet, but that's really cool concept.
that's really cool. I think that is, yeah. They that is like right in line with what I was talking about earlier. It is like if they can keep doing that and just kind of create that place to learn, that's what's going to like help grow a brand in the card world. I feel like is by teaching. I mean, Joker and the Thief, they've grown their audience by 20,000 people. I feel like in the last couple of months, by teaching tutorials now.
Hmm.
Education is going to be where it's at, and it's like where it's like you can keep buying decks all you want, but I personally get to a place where I buy decks and then I'm like, okay, I'd like to learn how to use them now.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to do something more with them rather than just like staring at them.
I think what we're seeing too is the companies and the brands like Square Up and Joker
Oh
and the
yeah,
Thief, like you say, like these people that are really focusing on teaching cardistry are the
yeah,
ones that are growing substantially right now. I feel
100%.
like this is why Jaspa's got exploded as well. The School of Cardistry was because he was teaching so much. But the people
Yeah.
that are actively involving in themselves in the community and like putting out educational videos, I think, are the ones that are they're not as big as the Fontaines and stuff, but they're growing and they may get to that point because
Oh,
they're putting in
100%.
this effort.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, squared up. Dude, yeah, their little squared up shorts Instagram channel, really helpful. Just here's some quick tips on basic cardistry moves. Nate was really good about that with XDex when he was running XX account, and he would just do weekly tutorials. A lot of the original moves of his, and like you've seen him in person, like that dude can just he's somebody that when you get a chance to see him like in real life, he just like kind of comes up with moves live.
Mhm.
Um, it's it is so unique to watch something like that in person. And I forgot about that, and I hadn't seen him for a while. And so when I saw him at that last Midwest Jam, he was like, I was watching his brain figure out moves as he was doing them, and I was like, bro, need a yeah.
Why
I'm
can't
ready
I
to have
do
that
that?
man, dude. I love seeing that. Him and Spud, dude. I'll see Spud like just kind of be troubleshooting something on his own. Like I remember when I was at the 52 plus Joker convention last fall, I would watch Spud just kind of like be tinkering around with moves. Like I was with him. We shared a room. I was with him for about 3 days straight. And I'd watch this dude just the way that he would just like kind of fidget with cards is
Mhm.
unparalleled to like what I could even fathom at that time. Like I'm over here just like I'll just I'm rev cutting all day every day, and I'll pressure fan. Like if you're around me for a minute, I pressure fan, and then that all of my decks are bent because all I do is just like pressure fan or riffle fan.
Yeah.
Um, but like people like Spud or Nate, like these people are just like creating combos on the fly, and I'm just like, dude, what? I can't, literally can't. And so that is something to experience in person when you get a chance. If you ever get a chance to go to a jam in real life, is just watching some of these people do stuff and figure stuff out live. Mind boggling, dude.
Yeah. I think it's so. The other thing I think artistry, I love that we're starting to focus more on teaching, or not necessarily focus more on teaching, but we're seeing success for those people.
Yep.
I think we're seeing a lot more cardistry groups kind of appear, kind of. So obviously we're doing like Midwest cardistry is what we're kind of a part of, where we're in the Ohio, Michigan, Indiana kind of area, Kentucky. I'm trying to create a group of people there to meet. But you also see places like Seattle and Boston. I think we're seeing more and more of these places that pop up where people are meeting more consistently. I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. And we're seeing like those people are becoming some of the best people at cardistry because of that collaborative effort. Not necessarily Midwest, but the people in Boston and Seattle, like Lars and Trevor and like Trin and all these people, like they're the best at what they do and they're meeting up. And it's like the gap is so big, I think partly because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I think when you can get, because it's like there's something, it's so much fun being able to jam out in person with cards. Like whether you're all hanging out and talking, or you're just kind of like sitting at a table silently for a couple of minutes and you're just kind of figuring stuff out. Um, that's what I like about the jams that we'll have, is just like it just feels like we all have such a strong interest in something enough to bring us together over it, where
Hmm.
that like there is just this like mutual connection that's just already there, that like kind of you like when like creating a friendship with somebody, I feel like you have to kind of find out like, okay, what do we have in common? What are some similarities or something like that? But like if you like paper enough to go meet up with people that also like it,
Yeah.
like
Enough to
that's already there. Like
drive 2 hours, or
100.
like someone drove 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours for
Yeah.
the Midwest Jam we just had. Like Spud took like three
Yeah.
or half 4 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you're willing to drive more than what the event length is.
Yeah. Just to
Like
go
that.
hang out and like, yeah. And it's because it is like you just get to connect with people where it is a different type of connection, I feel like, because you are connecting with people on something that you only get to kind of just hang out online with, maybe, or you get to talk online with somebody. But otherwise, there's just not enough meetups, and that's why it's logistically it can be complicated. But when they do happen, that's why it's like I'm very grateful that you organized the last couple now, because it was just like somebody needs to spearhead. Like Nate was the one that would spearhead some of the Midwest jams originally, and just um then you kind of you just kind of took that over that role, which, because it's complicated trying to like coordinate,
Yeah.
okay, where's it going to be, what time would work for everybody, and you just kind of
Well,
have to finally, you
you
ask
have to
enough
set a
people and you get
date.
3 or 4 people that maybe say they could do it on this day, and you're like, all right, well, let's just pick a date and see, and then you hope the weather's good.
Yeah. Well, it's like I always feel bad because there's always people that get cut out depending on
Yeah,
what date we click or what
yeah,
place we pick. If we pick Cincinnati or Indiana or wherever, it's cutting someone out. And that's kind of disappointing because you want everybody to be able to get there. But at the end of the day, you just have to choose a time for people to show up. And
yeah.
otherwise, it doesn't happen. If you try to include everybody, you can't get anybody because it never
Ex
happens.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's why there'll be, like, gaps between them, is because it's like, "Oh, well, I wanna try to get as many people there as I can," but it also just not going to be able to all, especially here in the Midwest. We're so scattered compared to places like, Boston. I think,
Yeah,
well,
New York.
I don't know what the population is up there, but I kinda feel like Indianapolis, Cincinnati, like, I mean, I think we've got nowhere near like New York, let's just say.
Yeah. Well,
So
even Chicago, when I went to the Square
Chicago,
Up
yeah,
Jam, I was looking at the Chicago population. It's like 10 times Cincinnati.
massive. Yeah, which I'm kind of surprised we haven't had more Chicago people drive. I mean, it's 3 hours from Indianapolis to Chicago, so it's a haul. But
Yeah.
um, Chicago, I feel like there would be more Chicago jams, but it's it's stressful driving. But if you're from the Midwest and you go to a big city, you're overwhelmed. Like that's just the fact of life right there. Like I was born in Nebraska and raised in Indiana. When I go to a big city, I just got back from Las Vegas and I was filming there. I was overwhelmed. Like I've been like if I have to like if I didn't travel for work, I don't know, like I'm only accustomed to it now because I've done it for a couple of years, but like I still get to a new city and I'm like, I'm turning down the radio when I'm, like, finding my next turn. Like,
Yeah.
that's just my small town shit about me, though, I guess. I'm from a town of, like I think there's 3,000 people in my town. So, um, but because of that, you're also gonna have more dispersed jams because of that. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, that's a whole thing, though. But
Yeah. I am happy that we're starting to get that kind of organized though. Um, and have been able to have as many jams as we've had. I
yeah,
know it gives you something to look forward to.
it does. It does. Well, and it's like it's just like an opportunity to um use it for I mean, you can get so much from it. You can get what you want out of it. Like you can learn from it. You can just hang out with it with
Yeah.
everybody. You can take pictures. You can make videos. Like there's
Trade.
a lot of different things to do. Yeah, trade, buy, sell. Like it is just kind of like a fun way to connect with people that all have like that mutual interest. And so um it's cool seeing how that all comes together. I'd like to find more ways to include more people be outside of cardistry in it. I think that'd be kind of fun
Mhm.
to somehow do that. I know from it all comes down to logistics of trying to be able to like coordinate things and have the time and energy
Yeah.
to be able to do that.
It would be
Um,
interesting,
yeah,
sorry to cut you off here, but it would be interesting to have like a boot camp type of thing that you could have like I mean you have 6 people that can teach new persons one on one or like here's 3 hours and learn the basics and receive a deck or something. I don't
that
know.
would be. Yep. I am all for paying for education. I know like online courses get a lot of like flack because there's a lot of like bogus ones out there, but I would always pay for education if I could get because it just speeds up the process of learning. And if I could pay somebody to teach me something faster, and it's not like thousands of dollars, I'm all for that because then it just means I get to enjoy the thing that I enjoy doing more and
Mm.
I can learn faster and I'm less frustrated and less discouraged by the learning process. And so if I could, which is why I was like disappointed that Tobias like just dipped on his Patreon because it was like it started off so strong for 15 bucks a month. I was like, this dude's bringing it,
Yeah.
and then just dipped and like didn't really communicate that very well. Um, and I know CardistryCon was a thing for like it was whatever personal reasons may have come up to prohibit him from like showing up there, but like there that showed me that there are people willing and able to pay for you
Yeah.
like somebody like that. But also if you're not even at that level, but like you still have like enough skills, um, like being able to like support somebody via Patreon, and that means that they could do more cardistry or teach more tutorials, or it's like a little bit more like one-on-one. Um, who do Kevin, can't think. Kev does card. I can't think of his last name. He's staple in the community right now, and I can't even think of his last name. Um, he has like weekly Patreon tutorials. I don't even like watch all of them, but I'll watch.
Oh, I don't know what just happened to Tyler here. I'm assuming that's on your guys' viewing end as well. Nope. I don't know what happened to Tyler's video. This makes me very sad. But just continuing that train of thought, Tyler just disconnected somehow. When it comes to these Patreons and these little things like that, I think Kevin Ho has been doing a really good job. I feel like he's been pretty consistent in uploading tutorials and kind of like showing his backlog. And I think the ability to support these creators in is very important. And we need to find out ways to do that outside of just buying playing cards, because it becomes very hollow and a very consumerist type of space when all we do is just buy the playing cards. I feel like, yes, this is businesses that should be making money if they're putting in effort, but we need to find other stuff besides playing cards to support people. So like tutorial bundles, posters, swag, like this is an OPC shirt, stuff like that. Finding other ways to support creators, I think, is very important. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels like this, but I've gotten pretty burnt out on playing cards lately. And Tyler's back. Here we go.
There we go. All right.
So Tyler's back. I kind of just went on a rant on finding ways to support creators outside of just buying playing cards, like Patreon, playing like clothing, posters, stuff like that. I think if we can find other ways to support creators outside of just the playing cards, which can sometimes get kind of boring and consumerist in ways, is a good thing. And I think Kevin Ho is an example of someone that's been very consistent with their Patreon.
Yep, that was who I was. Yeah, during my intermission there, my commercial break, I pulled up Patreon and saw his Kevin Ho. 100% though. It's those kinds of ways of like helping support somebody, like whether they're making a lot of money off of it or not. It's just still cool to be able to pay for that kind of access. And support.
It's also like when I was pretty active in Cardistrytalk, the first and second season, I don't know, when I was trying to do weekly uploads, I had a Patreon, which you supported. I appreciate that. But just even having any monetary value, like it makes it feel like what you're doing is affecting people. Like I had 3 or 4 people in my Patreon back then, and I remember like that felt nice. Like even if it was only 15, 20 bucks, it's like, oh, there's some financial support here. People care enough to put money into this.
It adds like a fun, I don't know if it's the right word for it, but it creates a level of accountability too. Like where you're kind of like, okay, somebody's like invested in it, and like they care enough that you want to you want to show up. And so I think it's a cool way to like kind of have more skin in the game to like to show up consistently. But I felt like you did a good job too, like communicating. You're like, all right, I'm doing this and now I'm doing this. Like, so there's just ways of going about communicating with your patrons for it too.
I think that's what like I did too, is like I was like, I'm not going to upload a lot of content here. Like this is just if you want to support me. And that's what really felt good, is when people did that. It's like, oh, they like what I do and want me to continue it. And it did help me. Like I had gotten Riverside FM, which was a godsend compared to Zoom.
It's huge, dude. Yeah, big difference. That's cool. Did we cover I know that I could keep talking. I know my internet's basically trying to cut me off, so I'm like, I started this before. I don't even know if this is recording. I was like, all right, I'm gonna set a timer for 45 minutes because I know I can just keep going. Like this could. I was like, dude, you know what's funny is like I even had the thought in my head before this. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like I could talk about some deck drops, but I bet if I looked at a transcript, I'd probably talked 75% of the time about same thing over and over.
off the topics we had. No, that's cool. I do want to talk about Deckology a little bit. I know you haven't been super not weekly uploads like I used to do. You put a lot more effort in your videos as well, but Deckology is something that you've started since our last podcast together. So what has kind of been your experience with running your own podcast? It's more of a video podcast, I would consider it.
I think to call it a podcast was like, I think it was like a good platform for me to be able to just do this, to talk a little bit longer, because I did realize after our podcast that I could just keep talking about this stuff even if it was just to me and a camera. And what I enjoyed the most from the limited amount of episodes that I did take the time to edit and do was I enjoyed the like homework that I would do, like the process of gathering the information and then
Yes.
pulling it up, the references and all of that. It was just kind of a fun way for me to do a deep dive on stuff and then kind of expose part of I think it was like the flowers episode. And I've got the flowers that I bought for that one. It was like around Miley Cyrus's flowers episode or music video came out. But it was just fun, like going down a rabbit hole of like different types of floral decks out there. And then I like took stock of my collection. I was like, what are my favorite flower decks? And so it kind of created this like platform for me to be able to do that. I did a couple of interviews. I released one of them and just didn't even edit the others. I think I had one with you. I had one with
Yeah.
Elijah, and like where they're at. Well, Elijah's, we had an internet issue where like part of it recorded, part of it didn't. And I used Riverside, and so like the backup drive was there, but his video was not, but his audio, I overcomplicated it is what I did. And I would be interested to go back and find I'm sure our episode's somewhere in my studio. But like but I think what I'd like to do with it would be, and we talked about this a little bit about the live aspect, is there's no editing. It's just like, here it is. And like what happens. The internet cut out, but then we're back and it's just, here it is. I like the idea of just going live. I love going live on Instagram and just hanging out with people there. I don't do it enough. And then every time I do it, I'm like, wow, that was a lot of fun. It's because you get to just hang out with people, talk. And I like jumping in on other people's lives and I'll just be in bed, just watching people just talk about whatever with cards. And it's yeah, shout out Stu and Sean specifically. I'll just watch these guys just like shoot shit over cards and over most random of topics too. It's just fun to be able to kind of feel like you're kind of part of it. It's more of a community feeling when you're live with people, and people are kind of interacting with it as it's happening, which you saw more around the pandemic time. And when you saw that, it was like much more like groups of people would just kind of hang out for hours. I'd love to see that happen more, but times have changed. People have moved on. People have kind of grown into other hobbies, other things and whatnot. But I think with Deckology, what I intend to do would be to do more just deep dives into card brands. There is Kevin, Congress guy. I want to interview him because he is like a encyclopedia of information on the history of cards. I'd like to help him get his podcast going too, however I can. Because I know he was talking about wanting to get his going, but it's like, as you know, it can be a grind. It's a grind. And but if I could try to help people do that, I think that would be really rewarding. I'd be really rewarding for me to be able to help people do that. And so even just answering questions on how to start one or improve one, if Deckology could just even be a source for that, that'd be really cool. So we'll see what I end up, but I like kind of gives me that like that platform that can turn into something else where it doesn't have to be associated with me, but it could become like maybe a hub for something, or hopefully Deckology could sponsor events sometime, so it becomes more of a brand within the space that could just kind of help support people within the creation of card content. Is kind of how I could see how I could utilize my unique skill sets with different things other than just talking about cards. So and there will be orbit lines seen here before. What a flex. And then there will be orbit lines seen here. What a flex that is. You following that question or that statement? Oh no, I lost your audio. I might check your audio. I'll fill up some space into the meantime. Orbit's line to see. There we go. He's
Am I
back.
back? I'm back, baby. My microphone died. These have such good battery life that I forget to charge them a lot.
Yep. They are like 15, 16 hours.
Yeah, they're incredible. So going back to latching on to like one topic, when I think of some of my favorite episodes that I've made, it's when I have found somebody that I knew nothing about. And like, I just got to look through their entire Instagram profile and learn so much about them. Like I think of Greg M, who has been in some missing videos. I knew nothing about that guy. And he is such a good cardist. And like, I had no expectation, and it was so great. But that's why like some episodes aren't as satisfying anymore. Like they're still satisfying, but it's a different thing than what it was when I first started, where I knew no one in the community and I knew nothing, and I was a big dumb kid or adult. I'm old.
I'm following. Yep.
But but yeah, it's really satisfying. I think with that question that Tika was asking, thank you for being here, by the way. Greetings from Finland. So they released the black hole deck. What's a flex that is in your belt? So I guess maybe a playing card flex that you have. Maybe it's something you know, or maybe a deck that you have. I can say for me, I have a lot of my favorites right here. So I have the Peelers V1. So Peelers V1 is stupid expensive at this point. They feel really good. They don't look the best, no offense, Cam. But they didn't have custom faces back in the Peelers V1 days and stuff like that. So it's not like Peelers V4 look way better. But there's that deck. I also have the Gilded Aerodynamics V3, which is only 100 of these made, of the Gilded Aerodynamics, number 42 of 100, which is pretty cool. And they have that shiny deck.
Keep talking about yours. I'm finding mine.
Yeah, I'll keep talking. I can talk about cards for a while. We have also, this is probably my favorite deck in the collection, is the Squeezers V3 deck. Obviously, I'm wearing this shirt, but this was a deck that was actually used in the trailer/video that was released for it, that I got to be lucky enough to be a part of, and it's signed by Sam and Cam. So that's pretty cool. All
right, I got mine.
Okay, I get what Tico was asking now that he threw up a response, but you go.
We'll
finish
I do
the
like
made
that.
up
I do
question I
like
made.
that question. I like the interpretation of it, because I was like, what is like a good flex for a collector or enthusiast or a cardist, or that is good. It's good interpretation of it. But I will say, I think my biggest flex though is this is a first. I won a brick from a competition that it was like post picture of a first deck. And it was one that I won along with one other person. And it was like the first thing that I won where I did put out something to compete in, as far as like in the card world. And I thought that was super exciting. It's on my profile. It's I did slow shutter speed with photos with the cards. and that was like probably that was like I like out of all of the things that I've done with a camera, that was probably one of my most proud things is being able to like win something by kind of combining two of my interests. And that's probably one of my favorites. My second flex would be the first person that ever like gave me a deck that like was like, hey, create something. We'll give you decks for it. It was from Sergio. It was the Chaos deck. He sent me this one. It's like the smoke one. It was the first one that a brand had sent me to create something. And so that was kind of a similar, like what you were talking about with the squeezers. Being able to like kind of be a part of a deck launch was really cool to kind of like specifically I remember your like kicking cards was a thing.
Yeah.
And so to like kind of have any kind of amount of recognition for something unique that you could bring to the table was really cool. And me not having a whole lot of cardistry skill, it was cool to be able to like kind of do something and get something kind of like something not like kind of an acknowledgement of like, hey, you can do that. Can you do that for us? And I'm like, gladly.
Well, I remember like this deck, Smoke and Mirrors, I think it's V8. I don't remember what the gold one is. I forget the version of it. But this is the first one outside of Squeezers, outside of Cam, where someone was just like, it was somebody that I didn't know holistically at all. And they're just like, hey, do you want to make a sponsored post? And that was pretty cool for me. Because like with Cam and Sam, like I knew them pretty well already. We were already friends. It's like it didn't feel, it felt like you were helping out a friend, not like a sponsored type of thing. Or just hanging out with friends. Realistically, is what that kind of meeting was like. Felt more like than a trailer.
That's cool.
Whereas this was like, oh, this is like someone I don't know at all just wants me to make a cardistry content for them. So that was cool. That was special for me. Tika, what he was saying was referring to me making mini whole decks before, is like the flex of them finally doing a whole deck. And like, I want to put out that Yup, I'm Joe definitely did the whole deck, especially the black hole deck specifically, way before I had put any holes in decks or before I even got back into cardistry. Some people mix that up. Some people mix that up, and it's like, no, I'm not the only one that's put holes in decks.
Yeah, but you just did it. Yeah. That's fun though.
But it is really satisfying to see this aspect that I've kind of pushed a little bit or have been a big fan of
modifying,
starting to come into a thing.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think people that can like combine to like Skylar from 3D Deck Cuts, adding mirrors and lights into his. I did actually publish that interview. Him adding like that was an interesting interview where I didn't know about card cutting, and it was like what you were saying. You like he introduced me to a whole other world of it where people do that with Pokemon cards, and like he was like, dude, I'm not even like the tip of the eye. He's like, there's people that do this like infinitely better, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, and he would show me examples, and I was like, I couldn't still wrap my head around it. Where I was like, the way that people are like, he puts lights and mirrors, and they do that, like they just combine elements with cards together, and I'm just like, whoa, that is pretty rad. See how people put together elements. And
I had the exact same, not exact same, but I had the same experience with Diesel Illusions, where like that was my first. Kyle McIntosh was my first time looking into those 3D kind of deck cuts. And I was like, this is crazy. This is so much time and effort. It sounds boring to me, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, the way that like he like, and then and I think Instagram handles Aces in Bloom, but these insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
like the whole card art world is nuts. And so seeing like you can buy these, she's actually running a sale like right now on, she does like tons of different types of these. But anyways, shout out Stephanie, Aces in Bloom. But these were on that flowers episode that I was referencing. But like seeing how people just like take different decks, different things from decks of cards and like create art from them, whole other topic that we could dive into. But that is that and deck cutting, I'm just like, my hands hurt thinking about it. But yeah, dude, that's
playing card art is very interesting. I think we might have lost Tyler again. His Wi-Fi is actively fighting this talk. Oh no, he's back.
Oh no.
Are you back?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. This might be a good place to end it since we have been talking for a little bit.
Yep.
And your Wi-Fi is actively trying to assault you.
I know, dude. It's clearly like, you're done. You're good here. 30 minutes over.
But we'll do one more question. We'll do this question, and then we'll do a little of roll up the close-up pad. So what are the things you think will pop up in 2024 in the card community?
I think more tutorials are going to be coming up, because like what we were talking about earlier, we were kind of seeing a more of a rise in educational content for people that have been collecting cards. I think are getting more of an itch to learn how to use them more. And I think we're going to see more cardistry and magic combinations happening, where people are kind of like magic. Monet is probably the best example I can think of off the top of my head, where you kind of like does some card, like classic, some Dan and Dave magic, like trilogy stuff, where it's like you see cardistry and magic happening at once. I could see that becoming more of a thing. Daniel Huckins does a good job with some of that too, where he'll do like Ace Productions, or he'll do some tricks with kind of like showing off a deck, and then he'll do some magic kind of within it as well. And so I feel like seeing Cardis and magic, more sleight of hand, sleight of cardistry. I think we'll probably see more of that too.
Yeah. I know I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I feel like we kind of saw like a dip in playing cards being sold for a while there. And I feel like that's going to start to heat back up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as the COVID days, but I do expect more like releases from Fontaine. I know Fontaine's planning on releases. I don't know how many I can say actually, so I won't do that. But I know several brands that are planning some more releases. So I do think we'll see more cards coming out, but it won't be to the extent of COVID in like 2020, 2021, where it was like an assault of cards. And I expect Square Up to keep growing. I expect Missing to keep growing. I think they are two brands that are killing it, in my opinion. And hopefully more holy decks. I think Orbit has already mentioned that they're not just doing this one release, they'll do multiple. Nice. And I'm hoping Missing will do more with like a variety of hole placements, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping Missing will do more versions where the holes are in different places and different sizes.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Modified decks. I like that.
So, Tyler, thank you for taking your time to be here today. This is what I call rolling out the close-up pad. Just my fancy way of saying, is there anything you would like to promote? I know we kind of already talked about Deckology and stuff you've been doing, but this is your time to plug away.
Yeah, I would just encourage to follow Cardistry Tyler, and if you want to keep the conversation going, follow me on there, and I will hopefully keep the conversation going over on Deckology as well. And then if there's anything that I could do to help anybody film or make better card content, please ask away. I can talk about cameras and gear and lighting and microphones as much as I can talk about cards. So if I can help out anybody with anything on that front, please don't hesitate to slide into my DMs.
Yeah, that goes for me as well. Maybe just not creep into them, but You can have my DMs too. It's okay. We are very open to talk about cardistry. Obviously, we're doing an entire live podcast. We've talked about it for over an hour. So if you want to talk about cards, hit us up. We'd love to talk with cards about you, with you. Blah. Yeah, I want to real quick just throw out, for accountability, I'm going to eventually do a learning a move a day for a week type of project. It'll probably be a week or two from now. So I'm just throwing that out there so that people know about it and can hold me accountable. So I will actually do it.
Love
Um, so just throwing that out. If I don't, I will donate all of my collection. I'll do the ultimatum that Tyler likes to do occasionally. Where he'll,
it definitely works, dude. You threaten to give away some of your favorite decks, and it's amazing how fast you can learn.
So Tyler, thank you for taking your time. Thank you everybody that showed up today. Tika, George Grayson, etc. I appreciate you guys coming, and hopefully you guys can make it out to new ones.
Sweet. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Thanks everybody. We'll disappear now.